I clearly jumped the gun there, but what is up, the Petty Eddie podcast? I am Eddie McDonald, or on Twitter. With me tonight, my 216 colleague. He joins me. We're going to discuss all things about the Browns' ass whooping of the Bengals this past Monday, and what last thing. Before we, ask Jacob how he's doing, plug homage, and he can tell you. He can tell you that I'm not lying when it's like the most safe. It's very soft. It's very, but not in a bad way. Like it's loose and like some shirts on how you are. These are just very loose. They wash really easily. They don't shrink in the water stuff. Make sure to go check out Homage. Homage Network _216 on Twitter, and we will set you up if you're looking for any college sports. We got it all. Here's the cat. Always waving her tail. Did that earlier in the Zoom meeting. But yeah. So homage.com. Make sure find the whatever know from Network 216. There's a handful of us that in the thing. Just a network on us with a nice homage link, and then they make some great in the corner. So that's homage. We'll talk more. But with me, as you see, Jacob Roach. He is one of my bosses at Network 216. He guides me. Jacob, how you doing tonight? How you doing mentally?
Dude, I'm doing pretty good. We talked last week about some sad stuff over, in terms of the game and what was going on and everything with the Browns. And then we kind of get into Monday knowing that if they don't do anything well on Monday, that we have to stew in it for 2 weeks. But I mean, I went in with relatively, I actually thought they would win, not in any way, shape, or form did I think it would be like that. But I kind of went into the game feeling pretty good. But at the same time, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to let them piss me off or anything like that. I'm just going to go in there and watch it and try to enjoy it. And they just went out and just did everything we've been asking them to do. So I'm flying pretty high. The Cavs are playing pretty well as well. So it's a good time to be a fan of Cleveland sports.
The Cavs come on soon, don't they? 7:30 they start.
7:30, yeah.
Yeah, so they play the Celtics. I was following along on my phone. I didn't really get to watch it, but we're going nuts in the group chat. Obviously because I got to see it with the Guardians too. Come together. A lot of times we're fighting with Browns. With the Guardians, there really wasn't much done in the season. Should have beat the Yankees in the play. They're going to be back and better than ever next year. Darius Garland has only played one game. The only game they lost. Actually, they're playing well. It's just cool to see the city of Cleveland especially when they're good. So the Guardians obviously they did not have any games as gloves yesterday, and the Browns won on Monday. Great week for Cleveland sports, and I'm with you. It pissed me off anymore, and that's hard to do. So I'm maybe 2-3 hours, but then I'm watching the 4 game, and I'm checking my fantasy. I'm just like, you know what? I'll be pissed for a little bit, but I'm not going to sit and stew about it. I think they're still a good team. 3-5 says otherwise. But the show is right back in the thick of things. And since the division, we go to 2-1 in the division. So that's essentially, and we've owned the Bengals for the past, matchups. And I was just like you. I thought, or I guess stay at home and win. And we do 13. I'm glad it was 32-13. Yeah, before I continue, this is even on the network before we even knew there was going to be a network. Jason Han of the Brown. I don't know if he still does this. He's a guest on his show before, so that's what this is. Drinking some sour. Shout out to Jason and his podcast sometime. But Jacob, I think on Monday night, the football game the Browns have played in all of saying something, because the week before against the Ravens, I thought the most complete game. They did not win that game. This was even better than that. Was it not?
Yeah. Yeah, man, absolutely. Just a heads up. I have a little bit of audio with you kind of cutting out just a little bit there. I'm not sure what it is.
Who knows? Technology. We're running on your thing. Thank God for him, because this wouldn't even be up and running right now. But things set up. I typed out all the descriptions, and then it says, "Yeah, your connection isn't." I was like, "Yes, it is. I'm right here by my router. I'm
So right next to it.
It literally like away from me, if that, maybe 3.5 feet. But he fixed this up. So I don't know if it's my AirPods or technology hates me.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
at least like when I went to set up the name of this episode, I put in right back in the think of things instead of thick. So we're having a little bit of a battle with technology. Yeah, dude, it really interesting that you kind of brought up the last week against Baltimore and talks about like the most complete game, because I was with you. There was just a couple of mistakes, and that's how small the margin of error for the Browns is right now, that led to them losing that game against Baltimore. It's just a couple of things here and there, but that defense seemed to finally at least communicate, do some of the things that we wanted to see them do. And then this game comes and it really showcases everything we thought the defense could be, and then everything we have learned the offense has been. So weren't really sure where that offense was going to be. The Browns are like number 1 in rush EPA right now. They're like, I think 6th in offensive EPA overall, talking about with a backup quarterback as your starter, putting up those kind of numbers. So if you still want to hate on Kevin Stefanski and who he is as a head coach, I don't think you know much about football. Like, it's just, I'm going to be blunt about it. Yeah, right.
I'm going to put it a little bit not nicely. You're dumb. Like, you were just dumb if you don't want Kevin Stefanski as the coach. We all love him. As a Browns fans, we love it. Coming into the season, hey, we got to ride with 7 for 11. If he can 4 to 7 wins, we're going to be happy. 4 now because it's 3-5. We're going to be happy with that. He's done a hell of a job. Yes, he's made some critical turnovers. Reason he's going to do that. That's not Stefanski's call. And every Stefanski needs to run the ball more, which we'll talk about that here. He needs to do that. Well, the team, but the Patriots game, and if the plays are executed, you're praising him as a backup quarterback. No, he's still doing all of this with a back. The top 6 you said, and that doesn't happen with a backup quarterback. The rest, it is, but they've only lost games by 4 games by 9 points. That's it. Happy from and with the defense this week, like the defense we all thought they would be coming into this season. And I've talked about this on this show a few times. I know whatever other Browns related show we have on network, it was the defense, and the offense just has to be a little bit better than last year. Well, the offense this year, with or without an injured quarterback, they've just been playing well, and missing a bunch of key guys. Anthony Walker, Denzel Ward, who has not been playing well this year. So I hope he gets better. I don't even care if he plays football again physically. But missing a lot. John Johnson has been. He hasn't been very good. They gave him the green dot on Monday. That really changed things because they gave him the green dot last year, in the second half of last season after they got gelled together. I just think that was one of the saved the season, honestly.
Yeah, I actually had this written down because it was something I wanted to bring up, and you I was going to ask your opinion on it as well, which you kind of just gave to me, which is perfect. But I wanted to look at this. You talked about it. It saved the defense last year. It now seems to be saving the defense here. Is that what the difference is? Like, that's my question that I'm trying to kind of been milling around since Monday, and I rewatched the game, and I'll rewatch the all 22 here in the next couple of days, especially with the off week, since they won't be playing this weekend. But I look at these communication issues that they have had with Grant Delpit and John Johnson.
lost Jacob. I don't know if you can hear me at all. Or let's check on my computer if my computer will actually work. And he's frozen in time. Oh, there he is. Jacob,
am I back?
Hear me?
Yeah, I'm back.
Like,
I guess.
You mentioned John Johnson, and I think he just took us out. So.
Yeah, sorry. There we go. I was trying to get myself to move again. It looks like I'm still froze on the feed over there, but we'll get it back up here in a second. But yeah, like I think you look at it, the John Johnson situation, and you say like, okay, he's got the green dot. We've had these issues where we're saying like, okay, they're not communicating. These defensive backs, they don't know necessarily where they're supposed to be. They don't know where where the other players are either. Like it's like that combination. They're like, oh, I don't know where I'm supposed to be, and this guy doesn't know where he's supposed to be. So the question becomes, why is it 2 years in a row that you had to go through the same level of struggles before you put the green dot on John Johnson? Like, that's my question. Like, why did we get to where we are, and why did this magically seem to fix things? Like, is there issues with John Johnson, like as the person and the teammate that he is, that he cannot accept communication or leadership or whatever it is from other players, especially once Anthony Walker goes down and it probably goes to a player that he thinks is probably lesser than him, maybe in Jacob Phillips, especially because he was struggling.
They
were rotating guys in
before he got hurt.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and it's like, so why does it not go automatically to him? Like, I get a little bit confused. I want to know why this suddenly fixes everything. But if it is the perfect fix, and if this is we see that defense going forward, going into Buffalo's the only one I think on the remaining list where I'm still really worried. If John Johnson can figure out, if he needs to be a vocal leader to be able to lead, then you need to take advantage of that. Joe Woods needs to be like, okay, when this dude is in charge of the secondary and calling the plays, these things work out. So even if you want to say it's some immaturity issues or he's a prima donna sometimes when he doesn't have it, who cares? It's working. It got dubs. They dominated every facet of the game on Monday. So if this is a sign that the communication is what they need, then I think the Browns defense is on a path to a resurgence and finally being the unit we thought they were.
The only thing that I'm mad about with that is the teams to figure that out. And not every game has been bad. It's not bad defense. They got rushed all over. That wasn't even. It was just the offensive line from the Falcons pushing us back and did whatever they wanted to them. They rushed like 202. Yeah, there's been rumors. I don't know if they're true. I don't know. You know, Twitter has rumors and everyone has sources these days. I just tweet about things. I tweet about the game. You know, we're 216 guys in the group chat. I talked to your site editor, site expert, whatever the hell you talk on daily. So I don't have sources. That came out that when John Johnson first came in, $1 million deal for 3 years, players weren't happy with that, which, you know, they shouldn't be unhappy. You know, everyone's going to get paid if you're good enough.
Yeah.
And guys took exception to that. Maybe some of the veterans took exception to that. Like, oh, got this. And I don't know if that's true or not. John Johnson has been getting dogged all season by me, by work, by everyone on Twitter. He's been terrible. They both played tremendously the other night. And if it is, you know, it might be a maturity issue, but I don't get it. If it's fixed, then I hope it is. Now, you team that scares you. Miami scares me a little bit too, because they're awesome, because they have two elite wide receivers. Tagovailoa has been playing as an elite quarterback this year, and that many have thought, you know, you can see that this year he's the man. The man, he was 5-0 when he starts and completes games. But yeah, so that offense. But if the defense played, the Bengals did not have Jamar Chase. That helped. You know, Boyd and Higgins, and they're elite. In Burrow even said, I think they said on the broadcast that he thinks all wide receivers, and that's tremendous. And if you can, oh shit, like, then they're good. And if you watch play the Browns, because the Browns have had their number and Kevin Stefanski era, then you will see, they're elite. They put up, video game numbers. They can do that again against the Dolphins, and then hopefully against Buffalo and Tom Brady and Tampa. Their defense is good, but this year, so I'm with you there. This could be the turning point. I just wish it was not 8 games, but I can't change it. Can't dwell on, oh well, what if they did this? Or I have not seen one person this week, not one single colleague of ours on Network 2 and 6 say one criticism of him. So hire Joe. Yes, it is. Hire Joe Woods because he did something right. He was not gonna, get rid of him. Get rid of Mike Prefer because the special teams is a disaster. But with the defense, you wrote about 3 impact players on the article. I just wanted to see who you had and to see if it mattered what I had. And number one on your list. He was number 2 on your list, but Sione TakiTaki, probably his best game as a professional football player. You love to see that. And he's fine. He was at the mic line. Sam, right?
He did some Mike and some Will, yeah.
Okay, but he was not the Sam where he's out of place a lot of times. I think he is out of place. He's more of a McKinnon always talks about. He's of extend him. He's not going to cost very much. He's not money, and he's just a guy that went out there and looked a football player. He did not look like anything else. He just looked like, I don't know how many tackles he ended up with the other night, but he's.
Yeah, I think he ended up overall 13. Ended up like 13. I think 9 were solo, and then like 4 assists or something like that was his overall tackle numbers. Actually, I'm writing another article specifically about Sione TakiTaki, probably tonight or sometime in the next couple of days or so or whatever, whenever I get around to it. But it's actually something that's really interesting to build off of. That is, he played a lot of Will linebacker and some Mike linebacker this week, as opposed to, like you said, the Sam that he had been playing that now seems to have been out of place, even though at times I thought when he was a Sam backer, that was a really good role for him early on as he was developing as a player, because he's a day 3 pick out of BYU and all that stuff. And he comes in and it's him and Mac Wilson, right? They come in he's in the 4th round. Mac was in the 5th of that same draft, and they come in and they're just kind of, battling it out and kind of learning together. And I thought something was interesting that there is a rumblings from inside Berea that JOK may be switched to more of a safety role, more of a box safety and stuff like that, which, if you remember, and I was one of these guys, I called him a safety in the draft last year. I did not think he was a linebacker. A lot of it had to do with his size and then his athleticism, and I thought he couldn't hold up to some blockers when they were climbing to the 2nd level, which has been some of the issues that he has experienced. And right now, obviously, he's getting healthy. Sione TakiTaki slid into what JOK had been doing that role. That was what pretty much he did on Monday night. And you saw this guy whose instincts were amazing and his reactions were on point. And like, he was able to diagnose plays and attack them immediately. And I've got this pulled up because I really wanted to make sure I did all of this justice when we talked about him, because I knew we were going to talk about Sione. And he gets your 2nd best grade from PFF on defense at an 87.3. He had a 91 pass rush grade. He had 9 tackles, 2 assists, 6 stop tackles. So he makes 9 tackles. 6 of them are stop tackles, which, if you don't know PFF, a stop tackle is considered a failure by the offense. So on 1st down, you must get 4 yards or more, because that puts you on track to get a 1st down. 2nd down, you must get half of the remaining yards. If it's 2nd and 6, you need to get at least 3 for it to be a successful play. And then on 3rd or 4th down, you need to either get the 1st down or a touchdown. So if you prevent that as a defense, it's a stop tackle. So 6 of his 9 tackles are stop tackles. He misses 0 tackles. The Browns missed 2 tackles all day as a team, and it was Martin Emerson who missed both of them. And that's amazing, because they were giving like 15, 16 missed tackles a week. So he misses 0 tackles. He allows 7 completions on 7 targets but he allows in 7 completions, 36 yards after catch. He's putting them down. And 21 of those were on 1 catch. And that's where he just didn't have very good coverage. So you're looking at him, and he has that strip sack in a very big moment because the Bengals were starting to get some momentum back, and it set up another Browns score in which they started to take control. So if Sione TakiTaki takes this role, he plays Mike, and let me get the snaps out here so I can make sure I don't say it right. So yeah, he's 36 in the box. Okay, so yeah. So he 3 as an outside edge rusher, kind of like a TJ Watt. He did some of that too, which is awesome. So if Sione TakiTaki can play Mike as well as Will, and then Deion Jones played pretty well as Mike as well, so they're kind of swapping those guys in there. If he takes over that Will role, and you can just take JOK and find where he needs to go, put him here, put him there, put him everywhere, and it ends up being this. It felt like with JOK out, they got to experiment a little bit more with TakiTaki. And as a result, I want the dude extended. Like, that is how good I thought he was and how good he could be in this role. So I think him there and JOK moving around could be the key to this defense figuring it out.
And they're going to have – they're not going to be – actually, the next 3 weeks. I don't care what fucking Brady. And everyone – a lot of people say, oh, we can't – he was throwing the ball downfield with ease. You know, whether Mike, different story. So 3 weeks in a row, pretty high-powered offenses. So I think you're right. If he just doesn't necessarily need to have a position. So that will allow John Johnson to be up close to the line of scrimmage, where their safeties are better towards the line of scrimmage. They don't have JOK can use his speed and athleticism. Fantastic. And you talked about just a minute ago, another guy you talked about on Dog Pound Daily. The guy that stood out. He played. Yes, there's been some plays he's given up. That's gonna. When I saw the pick taken in the 3rd round, I was just like, "What in the hell?" Okay, and then I was like, "Okay, you know what?"
Me too.
I don't know shit like Andrew Berry and his like. All right, I'll trust this. And they got rid of trading him back to the Rams.
Troy Hill.
Troy Hill, that's it. See, he was so excited for him and John Johnson. He just didn't. He allowed 7 completions on 10 targets for a total of 27 yards and less than 3 after the catch. That is, especially against a team chase, and that's fine. But they still had Higgins and Boyd. That's impressive for a rookie, and that's a good sign. Get back soon, but if not, if Denzel Ward is going to miss extended, looks like they're just right on track. I know you've been very critical of Denzel Ward, but he played him in a half before he got hurt, and then other than that, I'll give you that. But he started turning things around, just picking up, and it's just like, oh, okay, we got a guy here.
Yeah. It always works out like that, doesn't it?
It does. For us, really. I mean, this is a rarity for the Browns, but the NFL find guys that are just like, all right, well, our star rookie, 3rd round pick. Oh, wow, he's playing Browns. And just tremendous. And number 1 on your list, Myles Garrett. One of his. So, it was, but it wasn't at the same time much. In the first couple games, I was very critical. I was like, this and that, and then I was reading some people. People are smarter than me. People, and just like have different cover. Like do it. Like Corey Kinnan was a big one, and he's one of my favorite. Him, he was showing how much he's doubled into the quarterback, but the quarterback just gets the ball out. Just the defensive tackles aren't getting to the triple teams, but he played. I think overall, he had the strip sack, but it was TakiTaki. I tweeted out, "Oh, Garrett with the TakiTaki. That's great." That was caused because of all over Burrow. He was what's it called from Stranger Things? So he was Vecna.
Vecna,
Yeah, so he was that. Yeah, he was. It's Halloween displays are always cool, and he's a big Halloween. Second year in a row the Browns have played on Halloween. He was Vecna coming into the game, and then he had a dummy, but with Joe Burrow's,
levitating
sacrifice or something, levitating. Yeah, I don't know into it, but I sort of get the references. Like, I know people were talking about, like, I sort of get what you're talking about. But so, that was cool, and to have that game on Halloween.
Yeah, for sure. So real quick, I will explain that for anybody watching that doesn't understand it. For one, I will agree with some people that the hype for Stranger Things at the beginning was a little overblown. I think season 1 is a little boring in parts because they kind of have to explain everything and they draw it out. But I do, if you like, especially if you like old school style horror movies, it watches like an older horror movie. It's not a slasher. It's not that style of movie, but it does kind of remind you almost of like the early Nightmare on Elm Streets, where they just kind of put you on suspense. And then all of a sudden there was a monster that kills people, but a lot of it was like build up. Like that's very similar to what Stranger Things is. So Vecna is he's turns out to be the guy that he's in season 4, but it turns out he's pretty much been pulling the strings the whole time, right? So he's the main baddie. He's doing everything. You're like, oh, so this guy was doing work for Vecna and all that stuff. And so when Vecna, he makes you relive your biggest regret, and he'll target people like he targeted this one kid that hurt a woman because he drove drunk and it hurt the woman. He crashed it. So then he made that guy replay it over and over in his head until it was time to sacrifice him. And when he levitates up, that's when Vecna will levitate you up and then he steals your soul. So that's what that is. So Joe Burrow flying up was Myles Garrett about to steal his soul, and then he did it because
yes.
So I was talking about it. I said that and I think you and I even had this conversation a little bit a while ago about Myles, in the sense where I said, I'm not sure he can ever be defensive player of the year because he doesn't do certain things. Not that he's not good, because he's amazing. He has a huge impact. If you go watch, Corey Kennan, like you said, has been posting so many clips about him, and he's been badass even before this game. But this was a defensive player of the year game because you saw the direct impact. Like Sione TakiTaki on his one play where he strips it, there was a lot of attention paid to the other side of the line where Myles Garrett was. So you look at that, and I wrote that in my article, he's drawing this attention away. They started playing Alex Wright at defensive tackle inside with Clowney outside. The Alex Wright stan in me was like, and I think we'll see some more. So I was really excited about that. But Myles, he causes an interception. Whenever you cause a turnover, I'm right in that, right? He tipped that. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay. Yep. Okay. Well, here's the problem why I got confused. I was just talking with Tyler on Monday, Tyler Johnson. We were on the Scarlet and Gray podcast talking about JT, the defensive end for Ohio State, that tipped a ball that got intercepted. Yep. So I was trying to make sure that it did in fact happen for both of them. But so he tips that, right? And it gets intercepted. Well, that's the kind of things he's got to do. Then he has 2 sacks, both of which come in very big moments. I believe one of them was even on a 3rd down. So it's coming in these moments where you need this, right? What does TJ Watt do? When they need it, TJ Watt makes a play. He's a defensive player of the year. This was the kind of game that does it, because he's got the sack numbers, he's got the pressure numbers, he's got the overall numbers, but we were waiting for a control game because he's impactful. Yeah. I'm not going to say he doesn't have impact games. I'm talking about he does not change the total and complete coverage of some of these games, because like he would have a sack on 2nd down and they'd give up a 1st down. So like, which is not on him. That's not on him. But he does this. He goes out there and we talked about Emerson and stuff, but it felt like I was trying to find the Bears game was this last year. He had that was his defensive player of the year last year. But this one, I thought, even though statistically it might not have been better than that game, I thought this one rised above it because he did it against a good quarterback in a good that's not a good offensive line, but it's a good offensive team. and he helped to shut it down, like you talked about that. And so it was such a big thing. I found myself doing what I do in very big moments, and if it was a big moment, I was watching 95, and that's when you've stepped up the game yet again, is when you got an idiot like me actually watching specifically defensive line play.
Right. And there was a couple times I noticed I noticed they moved him a different time. They moved him from the left side to the right side, and vice versa. Time he came off the left side, and almost shit. Look, he like got in there like boom, boom, and then he comes in, has a spin move. There's nothing those. They just spun right around him. He was right in Burrow's girl, took him right down. That was tremendous. So I like how they're mixing him on, just to try and so the offense think about it before they hike the ball. What was the defensive player of the year game? I don't know if he'll win it. A lot of people see that he doesn't sack a game. TJ Watt usually puts up 2-3 sacks a game. They play two different roles. Yes, they come off the edge, but that rushes off the edge, then Myles Garrett. And I'm not saying that Watt does not get double and triple. He's one of the best players in football. I hate the watch. He's always all over the field, and all Garrett did that. Garrett was that. You talk about the tackling. Kevin Stefanski said it's part of the tackling, and I think he's absolutely right, because we bitched about it in the group chat a bunch. That it's like, how the hell are you in the NFL?
How do you not know how to tackle? You're professionals, damn it.
Right, and they had to practice that. What the heck? Like what? Like I get like things throughout the week, like depending on who you're playing and what you but to tackle, like, come on, man. So the defense did its thing. 13 points to one of the high in the NFL. They were clicking the past couple weeks, especially the week before against Atlanta. They just steamrolled over. They're going to put up 60, but they only put up, I don't know if they put up 42 or something. I don't remember. But they held them to 3 Carnes. Your co-host Tuesday night, he had some stat today. I don't had like X amount of games with 14 or more. That was snapped because the Browns 13.
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember how games, maybe, or something. Sorry, Nick. I'll remember. But moving on.
He always posts so many stats.
Sometimes they're like obscure, like, but hey, he's the most hyped and most loyal Browns fan I've ever been for, because sometimes it does shake, but sometimes it's just like that's just who he is. Like he's good, but that's just how it comes off, and that's just how he is, and I love it. Genuine, because same thing with the Cavs and same Ohio State, same thing with any other team he roots for. He just it's like, all right, cool, and people give him shit for it. Fuck you if you give him enjoying sports. Like, can't have defense did its thing. Offense yet again did its thing in a game this season with 32. When I saw that those points they scored the show, I was like, what? And I realized, a couple times or whatever. And I was like, oh, but they just did their thing again, and everyone. I know every Chubb rushed for 20 or more times, so which that stat is so goddamn misleading. And and shout out to Randy, because me and him talk about it, I swear, if not every day, then every other day. People just don't understand. So when you are down, especially when you are down, you're not going to be able to run the ball very, very much. Like, you are a team that, as the Browns do, and they're one of the best teams and back for rush out there in the top 3. But you can't run it taking you out, like taking that out. Bill Belichick took Nick Chubb out of the game on purpose, and then it was was playing well against the Ravens that Chubb was in back in the game. So he rushed, I forget it was like 20, over 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was doing his thing, but that was because Stroud in the game. They led from the and the fact that Jacoby Brissett getting these big chunk plays A lot of them to Donald Peoples-Jones, and that opens up the offense. This offense is going to be so extremely scary when a month, because he's set to beat them until he does beat them, and then here, Nick Chubb, have this ball. Okay, here, stay on the team. Thank God. I do love Kareem Hunt, but I don't care. We have him for but Chubb did his thing. Brissett did his thing. Don Peoples-Jones continues to do his thing. He's not putting, but he makes these incredible catches, and that him and Chubb both hurt. I thought nothing really what we've seen outside. They didn't turn it over outside of the fumble, right? There was no other turnover, right?
No.
Yeah, so the offense was just clicking.
Well, the turnover, the Amari interception, that's what it.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
I forgot about that because he redeemed himself, so nobody cared.
everything after I completely forgot about that until right now. I just forgot. I'm just like, Kevin, what the fuck are you doing, dude? Like I'm an NFL play caller. I'm not a high school football play caller. Any sort of play caller. He knows better than I. Stupid as hell. And I understand Cooper was trying to Towns, or I forget who he had wide open down the
Michael
sideline.
Woods, yeah.
Michael Woods, and he had no time to play. He should have just went down and just like Brissett. But you know what? That's one of those plays. Like you get one every few games, like the Njoku reverse this year. What David Njoku on a reverse? Like come on. Well,
he did it.
Kevin Stefanski continues to.
It's amazing sometimes. I think it's amazing. Yeah. I think it's amazing sometimes because how good he is overall, because he'll also do things like that. And you're just like, because he ran an Njoku reverse last year too. Like people forget that he did that last year. Although I think last year it picked up 2 yards. So it was much more productive than it was this one. Real quick, I'll jump into the offense, but I also want to give props. Isaiah Thomas is playing really well at defensive end.
When you said Alex, say Isaiah Thomas as well, because they're both rookies.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Well, yeah. Well, and the thing that got me the most about Isaiah Thomas was his sack. I thought it was Myles Garrett because he burned Jonah Williams that bad. I was like, oh, there's Myles' third sack. And they're like, no, that was Alex Wright, or that was Isaiah Thomas. And I was like, oh. So the offense, here's some things that for me on the offensive side of the ball that really kind of we talk about, Brissett only throws 22 times. He only needed to throw 22 times. And that was because of what he was doing. Listen, Trey Flowers comes into this game, and I work with a student at OU that he works in the office with me at transportation, and he is a Bengals fan, and his dad actually covers the Bengals for The Athletic. So he's from Cincinnati and stuff like that and stuff. And I talked to him yesterday about the game. I went in on Tuesday yesterday, and I didn't say anything to him because I wasn't going to be mean or anything. And he eventually was like, all right, I'm ready to talk about it. And I was like, okay, well, we can talk about it. And so we started talking about it, and we talked about what Amari was doing. And so, and I felt really bad because Awuzie goes down, and I hate injuries, and now it sounds like he's done for the year, and he's the best corner, and that's just –
he is done for the year.
Yeah, okay. See, I wasn't sure if he was, so that's confirmed. So, anyway, Trey Flowers comes into this game. Amari burns Trey Flowers so bad twice, including that touchdown, that Trey Flowers was hurt. Now, I'm not saying that Trey Flowers wasn't hurt, but I didn't see anything other than his ego. And though I will not say he's not actually hurt because I'm not that guy, I will say that it seemed like he just didn't want any more part of Amari Cooper. And even if he wasn't injured, he probably would have asked to not be covering Amari Cooper anymore. Yeah. When he gets that one-on-one, I don't know about you, man, but when he gets that one-on-one and he's in press man coverage, on Amari there was it first and goal, second and goal, whatever it was, when Brissett just threw a dime in the bucket in the back corner of the end zone.
Yep.
When he lines up there, I looked at it and I'm like, oh, he's going, because Brissett looks over and he's like, there is nobody over there but Trey Flowers. And he had just burned Trey Flowers. So it's like, okay.
Yep.
And Amari continues to be absolutely filthy. Remember, the Browns got him for a 5th-round pick, and it took a 2nd-round pick for the Bears to get Chase Claypool, so that's cool. But you brought up Donovan Peoples-Jones. Last year on our podcast, specifically, me and Nick on the Barking Browns, I pounded the table for Donovan Peoples-Jones. I said, listen, this kid had a relative athletic score of well over 9. It was a very high score for a wide receiver, and he ends up going in the 6th round, and people say, what's going on? He was a former 5-star. He doesn't get developed at all by Harbaugh at Michigan. He comes in here with this elite athleticism and size, but not elite speed. He doesn't create elite separation. Now, I will say in this game, he did get wide the fuck open a few times. So he was very wide open. But I read some reporter, some journalist. I wish I could give them credit because I can't remember who it was. But I read a statement. Oh, Darius Garland from 3, baby, he's back. All right. I read a statement where she was talking about, I believe it was a female reporter, was talking about Donovan Peoples-Jones, and the quote was something like, "He's not open, but he's gonna catch it." And it's so true, because that his best attribute, and I've written about this, and I'm going to write about him again. I told Randy Gursey, I was like, I'm writing about DPJ again. And he's like, that's fine, and I'm like, the dude catches it, the contested catches. If you need a play and you don't have someone open and you see 11 and you're like, I think I can get the ball to him, throw it to him. Dude's going to catch the ball. He's insane. And it's just like, he's a number 2 in the NFL, and we were all worried who was going to be the number 2, especially now that David Njoku's hurt. Who's going to step up? We thought about this all offseason. Who's going to step up next to Amari? DPJ is a wide receiver too, and he's a very good wide receiver too. So I'm really excited about that. So but for you, I also thought Michael Woods made some good plays. On offense, is it Jacoby Brissett for you? Was that the number? Who was the most impressive that you enjoyed on Monday? Was that Jacoby? Was that Nick Chubb hurdling a dude? He hurdled Mike Hilton and put him on blast.
Down. He didn't even just go down. He still went down. I think like 3 or 4 yards, or
about 4 or 5 yards. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was impressive. I'd say it was probably Dom Peoples-Jones for me. He does make these tough contested, and I saw Amari Cooper, because Amari Cooper had that, boneheaded, whatever. He did that, owned it, and then was like, you know what, plays that I saw that Brissett threw to the first down, and then that one, he had the challenge it. He got reversed, he bobbled it a little bit. And I'd say Dom Peoples-Jones, because like you said, David Njoku here, all offseason, everyone's like, oh, Amari's not a number 1, which because just because CeeDee Lamb might have had he gets more of the long touchdown pass. Cooper is still number 1. He's been productive his whole career. For Dak Prescott as his quarterback. Now Jacoby Brissett, who I think he's better than Derek Carr this year, because Derek Carr, different story, different day.
Yeah, Derek Carr is that's an interesting one to tie down to.
Jones, his rookie year he had 600 something yards, and then prediction for the season this year that he would not give it. He had Deshaun Watson for 4, even 11 games as originally thought. Then that's not the case, but he catches everything. I thought he has like an 82 catch grade. He's not going to burn you down the sidelines. He's not going to get a bunch of yards out. If he throws it to him, he's going to catch it. And 82, incredible. So I think he is really what stood out to me, because he's been having a hell of a season. He was on. Hopefully comes back against Miami. And if he's not healthy enough, hopefully Peoples-Jones really stepped up when they needed him to. He doesn't score. Does it? Amari Cooper scored the touchdown. Nick Chubb scored a couple times. So Brissett has impressed. I went into the season thinking, hey, for second than an injured Baker Mayfield from 2020 to compete until Deshaun gets back. And the record is if they're in contention, like I said, or win in the next 3 weeks, or I guess 4 weeks, if they don't play the next 3, then I think they'll be all right because they can get the Magic. I don't know because the Ravens aren't very consistent. They don't put Bengals can't beat anyone in the division somehow.
No.
Yeah. So,
and you got like Houston, and Watson also has Houston, New Orleans, Washington as the other 3 non-division games that he's got. And like, if this offense, like, okay, so we think he's going to be rusty, right? And he'll be rusty, but he's going up against Houston and Cincinnati, which they've been fine with, right? So that if all you need him to be is what Jacoby has been for most of this season. Not even Jacoby from this week, because I thought he was phenomenal this week. But you don't even need that. You don't even need that version of Jacoby from Watson the first couple of games. You need, I think, by Baltimore and New Orleans, you need him to be Watson to really make a push. But MC, and I'll bring it up here. MC asked the question I was literally just about to comment on and then ask you. I know we're pressed up against time, but he said, when Watson returns, how many wins will we need to make a serious push for the playoffs? I think they've got to win 2 of the next 3. And right. So it gets into before Watson, they need 2, and then Watson probably needs 5. You could allow him to have 1 hiccup, and preferably it's against one of the 2 NFC teams. If he does lose one of those games, that would be the preference. I hope not,
because if we lose to I'm going to be real pissed off. Like, I'm not going to lie.
Well, I'm not saying you wouldn't be justified in being pissed off. I'm just trying to figure out where it can go. But I think they need 10 games. I think they need 10 wins. So however you can get to 10, and listen, I was going to say this to you, as like I said, I know we're up against time here real quick, but if this team finds a way to claw in and Watson can be Watson with the way this offense has worked all year, and if this defense can be 75% of what they were on Monday, they don't even have to be 100%, 75% of what they are on Monday, and this offense continues, and then Watson's ability elevates it another step. I mean, this team, remember that the 9-7 Giants got red hot, snuck into the playoffs, and beat the perfect Patriots. So this could be, but you've got to get to 10 no matter what. And it is a tall task because of some of these early stumbles.
Winning 1 of the next 3, that's the least of the best case scenario. Obviously, winning all 3. I'm probably going to concede the Bills game because they're on another 2 good right now. And they get Naheem Hines, who they're going to he's going to help them out tremendously, especially when the guys downfield. And Allen doesn't have anyone. Oh, here's Naheem Hines. And that Allen looked at Diggs and was like, "Shit, he pretty is fast when he has the ball." And 1 of the next 3 seems doable. The ideal. All 3 obviously is the.
Well, then we're cooking with gas.
Yeah, but I think they at least win 1 the time Watson gets here, and then if he can lead the team to 6 wins, then okay, then that gets you the division or in as a wild card. There's 3 wild cards, so we'll see what happens. Before we get out of here, tell people about Underdog Fantasy with Underdog Fantasy.
Guys, Underdog Fantasy is my favorite because everybody who follows me knows that I'm addicted to mock drafts and drafting people. So instead of doing daily fantasy where you've got a salary cap, and when you do those daily fantasies with salary caps, you have got to pick a 3rd string running back that has a monster game if you want to win. Like, that's how these things seem to work. But with Underdog Fantasy, you may enter a league in which you have like 5,000 players and 50,000 goes the first $50,000 is the first prize. But you will do a fantasy draft in small groups, usually like 3 to 10 people in those small groups. You'll do a snake format. So you'll do a regular fantasy draft, but just for that week. You can pick it for one specific game. You can do it for the main slate. You can do it for Thursday night and Saturday. You can do it multiple different ways. But in the end, it's just a fantasy draft that instead of doing it that way. And if you do not have a code or do not have an account, sign up. And when they ask you, how'd you hear about us? If you enter our code 216, they will deposit they will match your first deposit of up to $100. It's $10 to $100. So you put 50 in there, get 50 free dollars. And if you know ball, you'll make some money.
Yeah. So see that every week when I do these ad reads for them, sponsor and partner with us with the network. They're sweet. NFL Jam. You can see they have WWE ones. They have a DX one. I know the things that I'm going to get at some point. Shout out to them. Subscribe to our cost to you nothing. Jacob is going to be doing challenges sometime in the near future. Obviously you can see where to follow him at Road 15 for me. Stick around to the network because Rifle Dog podcast is coming on with Tyler and
Jack and Zach.
Jack and
Jack's a little less vocal on Twitter, so.
Yes, but I love how he gets fired up on good way this week because the past few
weeks he'll be fired up tonight.
Fired up in a bad way, and fired up in a good way because the past few weeks have been good. Pressure came down. I hope he's able to relax and just yell that. Yeah, we'll say. I don't know if he'll say fuck. I don't know if he says that or not. I say fuck is my favorite word. But network _216. Follow us there. Freaking podcast. I listed them last week since I only have this, and this. Jacob's usually on the board last night. Thank you for joining me. I showed earlier on Tuddle podcast with Jason Hand. Mike, another co-host of that, or is it just them two?
It's Mikey and Ian Coltrane.
Okay, Ian. You always forget. There's so many shows, so much cool everywhere. Again, Road 15, network _216, all on Faithful Dogs podcast coming up. And shut my mouth and get off here. So until next week.
See you guys.